Now, we've talked a lot about how the coalition is inching towards a pro-nuclear policy, hinting today it'll be part of their election platform for next election. I've always said it will be. A little earlier, I caught up with the Shadow Climate Change and Energy Minister, Ted O'Brien, who explained the coalition's coal to nuclear plan.
Well, great to be with you again, Chris, and there's no doubt that our assessment into Australia's next energy policy is well underway. And we've been pretty upfront, as you know, from the get-go, that we need to have every single possible technology on the table. Or as the Americans call it, and I love this phrase, all of the above. So if we're to decarbonise the Australian economy, we need all of the above to be considered, and that includes next generation zero emissions nuclear energy. And so we've continued that very public conversation. We've been very open, very transparent. And one of the things that really caught my attention when I was in the US and Canada earlier this year was what they are doing to move from retired coal plants into next generation nuclear technology. And in particular, the state of Wyoming, which is a very proud coal state that's been very reliant on coal-fired power stations. They've made the decision not to get rid of coal, but as coal plants retire, they've looked at the options ahead of them and they've made the decision that they want to move towards nuclear energy. So they are then having that transformation, if you like, from coal to nuclear over time.
It makes so much sense, and in Australia the obvious locations for this sort of transition are the Hunter Valley in New South Wales and the Latrobe Valley in Victoria. You have water there, of course, for cooling and for steam in these plants. You have a workforce that's going to be available, especially if coal closes down. And most importantly, you have all the transmission in the transmission lines in place already, so you can get the power out to where it's needed without any additional costs.
Chris, look, you're spot on with some of those general specs which are required. And we again have learnt this from overseas, and we have to keep learning the lessons from overseas. There's a reason why countries like Canada, in particular, the province of Ontario, has such cheap electricity. They've done this many years ago. They were very coal reliant, and then eventually, as they retired those plants, they went into nuclear. And it's why Wyoming are doing the same, Poland's doing the same. You know, Switzerland, France, we know are long-standing nuclear. So they're driven partly by the need to reduce emissions, but secondly, they need affordability. It needs to be cheap. And you'll see those who oppose nuclear will always run this absolute rot argument that it's too expensive, forgetting that all of these countries do it to get costs down. The question we now have for Australia is this something we should be considering in those communities that really understand energy? And that's the question that we continue to put, and we continue that dialogue.
Well, of course, Australia should look at this. Not only is it cleaner, it's also safer. All the statistics would show us.